thank you so much, Maureen, for finding the time to be with us today and sharing the knowledge and the resources that you provide day in and day out. I know you are somebody who constantly shares content through LinkedIn and offers learning in many other ways. So I wanted to reach out and say, first of all, thank you for being here, but also tell us a little more about who you are as a person and what do you do?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and putting these videos together. It's a real contribution to our community, so I'm sure people are appreciating the work that you're doing behind the scenes. As far as me, Maureen McCann, I'm a certified career practitioner, and I've been doing this work for about 15 years. I began in the nonprofit sector and started helping newcomers to Canada find employment in their field. And after a few years there, I opened up my own shop, and I've been working with business leaders and professionals to help them find work. As a passion project, I'm heavily involved as much as possible with Career Professionals of Canada and the National Stakeholder Committee that's working to build a framework for career development practitioners. I call myself a fierce advocate for career development because I think it's a real important life skill for people to have, and it's something that I am very motivated to share with others.
With the given situation and COVID-19, I wanted to ask you, how has that impacted your work and your life personally and professionally?
Well, I think, personally speaking, I have three new colleagues in my office space. One, my husband, and two, my children. So that is a new experience for me. The first few days, my husband and I tried to share the office, and then we quickly realized that we couldn't.
Nope.
So from a personal perspective as well, we are a military family, and we're anticipating a posting this season. So that's in limbo right now, and we don't have control of that. So, I'm sure, like other people, there are things that we can and cannot control. And so letting go of some of those things we can't control has really become an exercise that I've always talked about, but I'm really experiencing firsthand again now in my personal life. As far as my professional life is concerned, like you, I have, as much as possible, tried to put together some useful content, create things for people to be able to take advantage of. I'm very much about helping as many people as I possibly can, and I know in the weeks and months ahead, people are going to be looking for these resources to help them figure out how to navigate this new landscape. So I'm really looking forward to offering as much assistance as I can wherever I can in that regard.
That's so heartwarming to hear. We're all trying, and that's the best we can do given the scenario, because things are not in our control. What we can control is our own actions and our own mindset. Have you seen any acts of kindness around you that you would like to share? The whole purpose is to keep people inspired and hopeful. What have you seen around that inspires you?
I've seen so much, and one of the first things that I started to do when I first understood about what was happening in response to COVID-19 was, I remember Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, he said, when I was a kid, my mom said, when things look really scary, look for the helpers. And so I really turned my mind towards the goodness. And part of that exercise is to shut out the negativity as much as possible. So for me, one of the things that I've done is I limit my news intake only to press releases from, for me, it's in British Columbia, Dr. Bonnie Henry and the Prime Minister. Those are the two press releases that I see regularly. But in terms of answering your question, there's been so much. I don't know if on Facebook, if you've been following the Nova Scotia Kitchen Party, but it is an amazing event where people come together and they share just joy, just people playing music, sharing music, sometimes sharing jokes or stories or anecdotes. It's just that for me has been really, really helpful, and the kindness of people responding to those types of things. And I'm sure you're seeing on Facebook too, people supporting healthcare workers at the changeover of their shifts. You know, there's been so many great things. I don't know where to start, but my mind is focused, and I would encourage other people to focus on looking for that kindness.
Yeah, so that really carries us forward in this time when things are a bit out of hand. Focusing on the positive is the way to go. Yeah, you're right. And I've seen Facebook in Toronto, there's a group called Caremongers. They are doing amazing work. And those chapters are popping up across the country now. The other one is Angels for COVID-19. In fact, I will be interviewing the person who started it, 𝙉𝙖𝙫𝙞𝙜𝙖 𝙠𝙤. In fact, today I'm going to do that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, well, I'll tell you, I live in a very small hamlet community, and we have caremongers here. It started maybe a week ago, and they're doing, you know, like I'm sure they're doing in Toronto. I'm in search of this. I can help you with that. It's just that's been amazing, that sense of community.
That's so wonderful. Yeah, I agree completely. So what would be your tips professionally for people who are navigating this period? Your expertise is career strategy. So what would you tell them?
The first thing I always do is I take a deep breath, because this is heavy. Any job loss is heavy, but when you think about it now, you know, the market is flooded with people in the same circumstance. I saw a staggering statistic out of the US yesterday that there were over 3 million people that had applied to employment assistance. And here in Canada, we know that number is well over 1,000. If it hasn't, or pardon me, 1 million. If it hasn't hit 2 already, I don't know. So the deep breath and the cleansing of that emotional response is really important. And it's okay if it takes a couple of days or a week or whatever. Like, you don't have to jump right into action. The first most important step is to process what's happening, because you need to be clear-minded to move forward. So that, I think, is step number one. And then step number two is really about setting yourself up for success and figuring out, okay, where am I today, maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, and how do I get myself closer up, you know, up from maybe a 5 to a 6, a 6 to a 7. How do I do that for myself? How do I take care of myself? And so there's lots of tactical things that people can do, and I'm happy to discuss those with you. But I think that emotional piece is paramount, especially today. I see you shaking your head like, yes.
I agree completely. I completely agree. Because if we don't take the time to breathe and, as you say, grieve over this period of change and uncertainty, it will be hard to bring our emotional space up and our mind back into the focus to be charged for what needs to happen. So I completely agree with the point you made.
Yeah, it's really important that we are able to process these emotions so that we're able to be decisive and we can focus on where we need to go next. When we don't process those emotions, what happens is they get into our brain and we're unable to make strong decisions, and we just sort of go all over the place like a bleh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's why it's so important to take that step back and deal with those first and foremost.
So once you have dealt with it, given the situation, and because I work with a lot of new immigrants in the sense that a lot of settlement agencies have reached out, and they are in that state where, okay, people had just landed or were in the process of landing or had just started work, and now things have suddenly gone into a downward spiral. How do you cope with that? What can they do in the meantime so that they don't focus on the negative?
Yeah, I mean, once you've processed the emotions, it's important to continue to stay involved in whatever your industry or your position is. So, you know, pay attention to what's happening in the news to a certain extent, so that you're informed, but also LinkedIn, like, stay connected with people, reach out, develop new relationships, build those relationships. And then, when you're ready, and I don't think this is a this week problem, this could be a next week or the week after situation, but take a look at upskilling or reskilling or doing some type of professional development so that you're poised and you're ready when, hopefully the pandemic is over and we're able to return to our work, that you're able to either go back to your previous role or start looking at other alternatives.
That's a valid point, to be in that preparation mode. Would you identify 3 things that people can do in the meantime?
Well, I love to talk about resumes. I'm sure lots of other people are talking about resumes. But now is a good time to take an inventory of your skills and your abilities. Where you put that information, we can figure out down the road. LinkedIn, cover letter, resume, that can be done. But this is a great time to sit yourself down and do an assessment or an audit of what skills do I have, what skills do I enjoy using, and how can I use those skills in whatever I happen to do next. So, I would be talking to my clients. If it were me, I would be putting together, I'd take out my current resume, I'd take a look at testimonials from people that I've worked with, I'd take a look at my performance reviews, I would make sure that I know which courses I've taken and all of that. I'd be in a gathering mode. I'd be collecting all of those data so that I could then sit down and start building my new marketing message.
That's a great way to go. Developing a brand, developing a marketing strategy for your skills, your competencies. Great point, Maureen. In the meantime, while we are doing that, would you recommend networking or researching, and how would you go about doing it if it was you?
Yeah, 100%. In fact, that's something that I'm currently doing. Is I'm trying to stay, number one, I'm trying to stay ahead of what's happening in terms of information. So when I watch the Prime Minister's briefings, I'm taking notes, I'm posting so that I'm aware of current events and I'm responsive. That would be number one. I'm reaching out to other career professionals, much like yourself, and I'm trying to figure out ways that we can collaborate so that we are sharing as many resources as possible, and so that people are in better positions down the road as a result of some of the resources that we're sharing. So the way that I'm doing that is, and it seems really simple and almost too simple, but I'm on LinkedIn and I'm commenting on people's posts. I'm reaching out to people. I'm doing my best to do some collaborations like things like this, and really just trying to keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening. If I were a job seeker, I would be doing the same. I'd be looking for who's having conversation, maybe who's prepared to have conversations. Not everyone's in that mindset yet. Some people are, hunkered down and still processing. Give people the space to do that, but I also think, people are looking for, thirsty for almost community and connection. And so reaching out through LinkedIn and seeing whether or not you can have a virtual meeting, I think is a really great starting point for job seekers.
That's great advice. How do you structure your day?
Oh, you know what? It varies all the time. And I love when people ask me this question, because when I first started working from home, it was like, I will work from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and I won't mess around. That went out the window very, very quickly. And for me, I mean, I've been working from home for 12-ish years, I would say, on or off. 13 actually. That's not important. But what I do is I start my day off by taking a look at my LinkedIn profile and seeing what do I need to respond to. I do the same with my email, and then I really am just project based. So rather than these are my set hours, the night before I leave work, like in the evening before I leave work, I write out a list of things that I want to accomplish the next day, and I identify which ones are the priorities. So then I just sit down with my list and I try and go through it as much as possible.
That's very similar to mine. I have my list. Yeah, exactly like that. Because given the fact that I have a 9-to-5 role and I do have those tasks, I don't want to intertwine the two. my community work and my advocacy and activism. So what I do is I restrict my hours from 9 to 5, where I do not mess around with that time, but then anything before or after. So before is my LinkedIn time, and before is my time to look at the social media piece. And then after hours is the time dedicated to whether it's reaching out to professionals such as myself, like you, then making sure that I'm trying to learn on the day. I don't know if you know, my background is literature. My background is administration, operations, project management, but there is no IT at all. No IT. Having said that, when I talk about IT, I am very, I would say I'm very comfortable on social media.
Yes.
I took the time in my last few days to actually develop a full website by myself.
Good for you.
Yeah, I had been postponing blogs for the longest time because I was like, no, it's very hard to stay consistent. So I said, okay, now this is the time. And I used Blogger. I went to Blogger. I created my own website. I created a page, and I do spoken word. I write as well. So I did a full post through there, and the back-end IT work involved in it with all my social media links. Yeah, so that was interesting, and I've been sharing that with others. Like, you can pick up something completely new to learn, while given the scenario, we need to be more savvy with our IT.
I love that you said earlier, like, I don't mess around with these hours. These are my hours that I dedicate. And then you took the time, because you don't mess around, you took the time to learn a brand new skill, which is quite impressive, by the way. And then you just like, okay, so now I'm going to do this. And now, you know, for those people who may or may not know, like, you are batching these video recordings and sharing them, like, on a Saturday. It's amazing that you're able to find the time. That speaks very much to your time management skills, right?
It's the time that I'm doing it. So on a day-to-day basis, when I was commuting to work, I would spend a good hour and a half on the commute two ways, right? Minimum would be half an hour to 45 minutes one side. I'm saving that time, so I need to put a good use to that time. That is why all my evenings, the time that I've saved, are scheduled for interviews. And then a Saturday is my time. Mm-hmm. So I write and I do different things. So I tried, it is important to give back to me. For me, volunteering and community activism is really, really core.
Yeah.
So I saw that opportunity of scheduling a whole day of interviews and then releasing. That's what I pretty much did. That said, I've also made sure that I have the time to recover. So my Sunday is a complete no, and it's going to be family time. My family is not very happy. I must tell you, they're very cooperative, and they are taking things on the go with me being away for the whole Saturday. My husband works on Saturdays, so he's not around, and I'm not ruining his schedule. Yeah. But my parents and my sons have been very understanding of this. That said, I'm taking the downtime on Sunday and doing what I need to do, getting ready for my Monday morning. That way I make sure that I'm fresh and ready to do the work I need to do over the week as well. So that's how I'm managing it.
I love that, because what you've said is, because I've set up these boundaries that for myself, I'm then able to do these other things that are really important to me. And you take the time for self-care to, like, give yourself that space to breathe. So there's this really great balance. But I want to touch base on what you said about, really your values. You said, I have to give back.
I have to.
It is who I am. And I just think that's so wise to honor that, because a lot of people, that might be the first thing they let go. Like, I'm too busy, I can't do this because whatever. And you're like, no, like, this is what helps me breathe every day.
It's a choice. It's plain and simple. Even with my work, I'll be very honest, Maureen, even with my work, I make conscious choices when I choose the work I do, because if I cannot be myself, if I'm not passionate about the work, trust me, I will not last. That's how I am. But of course, there are different people. I have the luxury of being able to choose, given the situation, the comfort. But then there are times when you have to do what you have to do. And I've been in those shoes as well.
Yeah.
Not
I think,
undermining that.
Yeah, and I think many of us have been or are in the situation. But I love that you use the words conscious. I'm conscious of the choices that I'm making. And I think that can be a real differentiator, because oftentimes it's like we said, you're just trying to do your best and you're just focused on whatever. And it's so nice when the lights are turned on and you realize why you're doing what you're doing. And that's one of my favorite things about career development, is helping people align what they know about themselves and the work that they do.
I agree completely. Having that alignment can be a game changer, because then you bring your best self to work.
Yeah,
which is,
you said it.
In an ideal situation, everybody would be working in a field of choice.
Yes. Yeah. Right? And the sooner you get, I often think, like, what would it look like if everyone who didn't love their job left their job? It might mean that someone who wants to do that type of work could then fill in and be in anyway, I live in the most positive places in my mind, but it's what I hope.
Well, that's why you and I are connected, because we are positive people. Oh, I've been blamed of being optimistic. I've been called overtly optimistic, which is okay. I'm happy doing that.
Yeah.
There's always light at the end of the tunnel. There is always, even in hardship, we can always find that one thread that keeps us going. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So tell me about an ideal situation, and I know this question is always a bit hard for people to answer. If you had a magic wand and you wanted something for yourself, what would be that wish? And this has to be for yourself.
For myself?
Yep.
Well, I think it's an interesting question, because are you familiar with the movie The Wizard of Oz?
I am.
Okay, so you know Glinda at the end of the movie? She's the Witch of the North. She's the one who helps Dorothy. I always think I get to be that. That's my job. I get to say to Dorothy at the end of the movie, when Dorothy looks up to me and she said, it was within me all along. All I had to do was tap my heels. And Glinda sort of says, well, yeah, but if I told you, you wouldn't have believed me. You had to go through this journey. I think for me, that is my magic wand. I'm thrilled any chance I get to have that experience with job seekers, where I go, you are totally capable of doing it. Here's the path. And at the end they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was able to do that. And I think, yeah, okay. So I don't know if that really is fair how I answered that question, but that's my magic wand for me. That's what fills me up.
I completely see what you're saying, because you're saying okay, how do I word it? That smile that you see on a face when you've brought around that realization for a person that it was all within you, and you show them the path. That is the magic. That is the magic unfolding.
I can see it in your face and in your eyes.
Yes.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
Absolutely. Because I get asked, so why do you do this work? Why career strategies? I'm like, the happiest moments for me are when I see that smile or see a message where a person says, I did it, and I found that my mojo inside, which is amazing. You've been able to redirect a person from a state of being in a bit of a shaky ground or a dark place to that light bulb. That is definitely the magic of a magic wand. Such a beautiful answer. I love what you said.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So one last thing that you would want people to remember, or a takeaway that you would want to share?
I wrote this one down, so let me just see what I wrote for my note. I would say this is a good time to reflect. Reflect on what life was like before, all of the goodness. I'm sure we're all appreciating, from a gratitude perspective, all the things that we are currently absent. So hugs and handshakes and group gatherings. I think when we come back from this, we're going to enjoy those things more than ever before. But from a career standpoint, it's the same thing. Reflect. Take a look at what you loved about all of the work that you've done in the past, and leave out the rest. And as you look to the future, keep an eye on those things that you love about the work that you do, and continue to look for those things.
Thank you. That's so wise, such a wise statement to make. The appreciation and having that thankful attitude, the gratitude attitude for what you have and what you've had in the past, and now valuing it even more.
Mm-hmm.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Maureen. I wish we had the chance to do this like
in real life
more often and in real life. Yes, and hopefully one day that will happen. My wish for you is that you stay safe and you stay healthy and you stay happy, and keep doing and sharing the sunshine that you do constantly on a day-to-day basis. I'm very, very thankful for the time you spent with me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I look forward to seeing you again online soon.
Please make sure to like and subscribe and ring the notification bell to keep updated with all our videos. Thank you.